This is the final 50 concept for Troops Left Spells / Pets / Machines. I mean, Troop Left Spells mainly, but some are Pets and Machines. For Clash of Clans. Just so you know, every DPS, range, HP, and special ability are only at level 1. This is usually mentioned, but sometimes it isn't, so here it is. At number 1 is the Sugar Spell, 2 spell space. The Sugar Spell makes ally troops self-heal each enemy troop, hero, or defense defeat. Self-heal is 400 level 1. And the spell has a 7-tile range. The spell color is light blue. At number 2 is Bubble, 1 spell space. Similar to the freeze spell with a longer duration, by encasing ground enemy troops into bubbles, staying in the air until popping for 8 seconds, but can be popped early by air. A stronger freeze, but only ground, and sometimes doesn't work depending on your army. Slightly bigger range of 6 tiles. At number 3 is the Fake Giant, 5 housing space. Akin to the Wood Knight, but does not attack at all. Instead, it's a statue held up by wheels. The Fake Giant is used purely for distraction, having a total of 3,000 HP at level 1, with a movement speed of 12. At number 4 is the Witch Doctor, 50 housing space. An idea similar to the reverse staff concept by Nakabe Plays. The Witch Doctor doesn't deal damage, but instead attacks graves, bringing dead allies back to life. However, the revived enemies only have a fraction of the health, 10% at level 1, along with medium HP, but fast hit speed with a movement speed of 20. At number 5 is the Starry Lion. The Starry Lion is a hero pet that has 2 attacks at once, melee and ranged. The Starry Lion does good damage at a fast hit speed, doing 134 damage per second and has 920 health. His main ability is that he has a tail that does 98 damage per second at an 8-tile range, with a movement speed of 15. At number 6 is the Octotron, 90 housing space. The Octotron flies in the air, floating to the nearest defense and sending out an extremely high damage laser, 2,300 at once at level 1, but with a very slow hit speed of 8 seconds, so the DPS is 288, along with even higher health, 7,000 at level 1, with a movement speed of 10. At number 7 is the Golem Drone, 100 housing space. A drone that flies to random structures 13 tiles away from its last hit or at spawn. Once it reaches its location, it has a startup of half a second, then spawns a golem, before flying to a new location. However, the golem drone is somewhat fragile, only having around 4,000 HP at level 1. A movement speed of 12. At number 8 is the Astronaut, 12 housing space. A rocket will come down wherever you tap, doing double lightning damage and spawning an astronaut. Made with wood and with a spyglass, as it's medieval fantasy, but astronauts still kinda existed back then. With low HP and low DPS, but can go anywhere, working well as a distraction or for cleanup. At number 9 is the Royal Hog, 2 housing space. The Royal Hog is a bit faster than a Hog Rider, moving at 34, only 86 DPS, and can jump over walls, but has a low health of 235, all at level 1, obviously. Similar to a Hog Rider mixed with a Barbarian. At number 10 is the High Valkyrie, 18 housing space. The High Valkyrie heals itself every structure/enemy destroyed, and every 5 hits has a torpedo effect, constantly attacking no matter what for 4 seconds. Still a Valkyrie, though. At number 11 is the Lost Ghost, 3 housing space. A ghost that moves at a quick speed with fast hit speed but medium DPS. It is fully invisible but disappears after 7 seconds. Similar to the Sneaky Goblin, but not just for resources, but disappears after invisibility. At number 12 is the Black Poison, 2 spell space. Black Poison works almost perfectly as the regular poison, with 3 differences. First, the range is reduced to 2.5 from 3.5. The duration is reduced to 10 seconds from 16 seconds. And finally, when leaving the poison range, not only does the poison effect never leave, instead of after 6 seconds, as well as if poison enemies touch other enemies, it spreads. At number 13 is the Heroic Healer, 25 housing space. The Heroic Healer is like a regular healer, but more housing space with different targeting and an ability. It doesn't heal troops, but instead he heals by 94 for heroes, along with more health itself. Like, it specifically targets heroes, not troops itself and heroes. And death falls to the ground and works like a barbarian. At number 14 is the Princess, 3 housing space. The Princess has a high range of 20 tiles with a fast hit speed 2. It has small area damage, a total DPS of 68, and HP of 108 at level 1. At number 15 is the Log, as a spell on Clash of Clans. 2 spell space. Log is already from COC, so its stats won't be made up. Log does 420 damage to anything it hits, being piercing and hitting anything in 20 tiles or if it hits 4 buildings. It does 4 times the damage to walls, and you can pick which direction it aims before deploying it. Might sound bad as the log launcher usually does more for free, but the levels go above level 4. And at number 16 is the Giant Snowball, 1 spell space. The Giant Snowball works somewhat like a lightning with different stats. It does instantly 310 damage, but slows down by 35% for 5 seconds. At number 17 is the Magic Archer, 4 housing space. The Magic Archer might seem similar to the Super Archer, but with a few differences. It's more of a wizard substitute, but less damage, more range, having the HP of 220, the DPS of 100, but instead of only hitting 3 defenses, then the shot disappears. It has a total piercing range of 10 tiles, generally meaning he'll hit 4 buildings at best. A piercing sharp shot instead of doing high single target damage. Wait, the wizard does splash damage. I'm not sure if I'm talking about the wizard in comparison or the archer, but oh well. At number 18 is the Goblin Drill, 10 housing space. The Goblin Drill is the most complicated troop on this list. It will drill to the closest resource building to it, launching does 210 damage in a 2.5 tile range. The damage is double for resource buildings. It spawns a goblin every 1.8 seconds. It will drill downward to the next closest resource building at half health or when destroyed. An expensive but safer use for goblins. At number 19 is the Skeleton Dragon, 10 housing space. The Skeleton Dragon is similar to the Baby Dragon, but a bit different. It is 850 HP with 250 DPS. Drops a bomb on death, doing 900 damage after 1 second. At number 20 is the Proto-P.E.K.K.A, 0 housing space. The Proto-P.E.K.K.A is a P.E.K.K.A where only half of it is there. A goblin inside holds a sword. However, it has an engine. If it's rest for 10 seconds, the Proto-P.E.K.K.A will stop. It can still tank and attack, but cannot move. At number 21 is the Mini P.E.K.K.A, 10 housing space. The Mini P.E.K.K.A is similar to the Clash Royale version, but with a special ability. It does 275 damage per second with 1000 HP at level 1, as well as spawning a pancake every 3 seconds. It heals itself and anything around it in a 1.5 tile range by 85 HP. At number 22 is the Red Roarer, regular Robo Roarer essentially. The Red Roarer is similar to the Robot Roarer, however it does not defeat its hero, but is a bit weaker instead. Does low damage with medium HP, but can still walk through walls, does 10% more damage each hero defeated. At number 23 is the Dark Skeleton, for 1 housing space. The Dark Skeleton is like a regular skeleton, but dark gray instead of white, with a special ability. It cannot die. Every time it dies, it will fall on the ground for a second before coming back up again with 10% more health. Great for a distraction or to cause some chaos, but generally won't do much damage. At number 24 is the Slogoth, 20 housing space. The Slogoth is a tanky troop, similar to the Golem, moving at 10 tiles per second and only targeting defenses. However, it spawns 7 mini Slogoths, which only have 590 HP with 6 damage per second, but moving at 16 tiles per second. But the Sluggeth has 8,000 HP and 61 damage per second to make up for them. Every 15 seconds, it will teleport to its destination instead of walking. A sometimes quick, sometimes slow, mostly tanky troop for sniping defenses. A better golem overall. At number 25 is the Gooify spell. 1 spell space. The Gooify spell works somewhat like a poison, but does not damage. Instead, it heavily slows down enemy troops/heroes, slowing them down by 30% at level 1, with a 4-tile range and a 7-second duration. At number 26 is the Sharpen spell. 1 spell space. A gray spell with a 7-tile range and a 6-second duration, and increases the range of all ranged troops by 5 tiles. Great for empowering sharp shots. You may notice that the color I wrote in the drawing is pinkish amber, while in the writing I wrote gray. I didn't know that, but these are just concepts, so think what you want on it. At number 27 is the Eye-Catching spell. 1 spell space. A single target spell that makes every troop in a 6-tile range target whatever building you tapped. If you didn't tap a building, they'll still walk to the location. A good counter to flanking with invisibility spells, whatever troop is tapped to your towers, or if you want your push to go another way instead. The range is the only thing changed per level. At number 28 is the Star Titan for 50 housing space. The Star Titan is like an Electro Titan, but air. Instead of an aura range, has a power shot ability like Evo Archers from Clash Royale. It has a 7-tile range. If it's above 6 tiles, then it's deadlier. The regular DPS is 230, the power shot is 460, as well as it has a total of 12,025 HP, all at level 1 stats, by the way. Good as a ranged tank, and sometimes does even more damage. At number 29 is the Shield spell, for 2 spell space. The Shield spell has a 7-tile range and only has a 1-second duration, simply giving everything in the range 300 HP shield, meaning that any damage dealt won't overlap from the main HP in the shield, along with giving extra HP, if that makes sense. At number 30 is the Mirror, 1 to 3 spell space. The Mirror is simply a single target spell that copies any troop/hero tapped. The copy has a passive boost, making it 5% stronger, faster, and healthier. If the troop cloned is below 20 housing space, it's 1 spell space. If the troop cloned is above 20, but below 75 housing space, it's 2. If it's above all that, or a hero, it's 3 spell space. At number 31 is Rampage, 1 spell space. Rampage is a single target spell that increases the damage, health, and hit speed of its troop by 50% for the next 5 seconds. Can be great if used with a very tanky or powerful troop, such as the Electro Titan or Golem. Does not work on heroes. Shadow, 2 spell space. The Shadow appears with a 5-tile range for 4.5 seconds. Any allied troop that walks over, it gets copied. The Shadow spawns all copied, then disappears. Has a housing space max of 50, all stats at level 1. At number 33 is the Axe Machine. The Axe Machine is a new siege machine that will pick a target based on HP and run to it, destroying any walls in the way with medium health and 63 damage per second at level 1. It does not target the Town Hall. Its speed is 24. At number 34 is the Zap, 0.5 spell space. The Zap is somewhat like a lightning spell, but does very little damage, only 86. Has a higher range of 3.5 tiles, but its main ability is to stun for 0.5 seconds instead of 0.1. In return, it's half the housing space. At number 35 is the Cyclops, for 10 housing space. The Cyclops would have a similar design to the Thrower, without a helmet, and taller. It would move at 12 tiles per second, do 300 damage per second, with 3.2 thousand hit points. Like a giant, but prioritizes damage over health, along with shooting an inferno beam out of its eye while it's attacking. Like the Starry Lion and Giant combined, but mainly damage over health. At number 36 is the Rocket Scientist for 4 housing space. The scientist would have low HP, 150, with a ranged attack shooting in a bolt of electricity like a super wizard, but doing far less damage. Instead of around 285 DPS, 160 damage per second. However, upon death, will launch a rocket off its back that will do 700 damage to the closest defense. Good for cleanup and sniping. At number 37 is the Omega Rocket, 7 spell space. The Omega Rocket does infinite damage, but only to defenses. Can give a great amount of value against monoliths or even more powerful defenses later on in the Town Hall unlocks. Still has the 4-second startup time and little range. Town Halls don't count, by the way. At number 38 is the Barbarian Barrel, 1 spell space. The Barbarian Barrel works a bit differently than the Clash Royale version, such as it being cheaper than the Log because this is my least favorite small spell in Clash Royale. It has 210 damage per second, only rolling 10 tiles instead of 20, does times 2 damage to walls instead of times 4, but spawns a Barbarian upon death. Somewhat of a substitute for a cheaper Astronaut or Log. At number 39 is the Martian for 5 housing space. The Martian is a ranged troop that can jump over walls. It has a range of 4 tiles, the DPS of 114, and the HP of 100. While it may seem weak, at half HP goes invisible for 5 seconds, allowing for extra damage. A fragile but deadly troop if used right. At number 40 is the Lightning Cloud for 10 housing space. The Lightning Cloud is an air troop in a cloud that does 486 damage per second with 1,025 health. The attack is sending out a lightning spell, meaning it does 680 damage at max level, area damage of 2 tiles, and stuns for 0.1 seconds. A stronger but more expensive balloon. Cheaper lightning, however. At number 41 is the Wither spell, dark purple. 1 spell space. The Wither spell has a range of 5 tiles, a duration of 3 seconds, with the effect being to increase the damage dealt to enemies by 40% at level 1. A good pair of strong troops, or to kill heroes easily. Has to have good timing though, but is more effective than poison overall. At number 42 is the Zappy Factory. A new siege machine that works like a burst spawner, spawning 10 zappies at once, then having a 15-second reload. A lifetime of 90 seconds. A total of 60 zappies at best during lifetime. However, the HP of only 100. At number 43 is the Trader, -2 housing space. The Trader is similar to a Barbarian on your enemy's side, having the DPS of 30 with the HP of 320, and has a Hog Rider speed of 24 tiles per second. Cannot jump over walls though. Unlike positive elixir troops, levels will slightly nerf stats instead of slightly buffing them. At number 44 is the Mega Hound, 60 housing space. The Mega Hound is a bigger, slower ground version of the Lava Hound with improved stats. The Mega Hound does 21 damage per second, moves at 12 tiles per second, but has a whopping 14,000 HP, the highest HP troop in the game, not counting Dark Skeleton. On death breaks apart, doing no death damage, but spawning 5 beefy lava pups that do 42 damage per second with the HP of 125. A great troop for distraction, for cleanup, or for pushes along with good damage. At number 45 is the Dark Barbarian, 1 housing space. The Dark Barbarian is a higher damage barbarian with a catch and some stat changes. It does 340 damage per second with 1.2 thousand HP. However, the Dark Barbarian loses 150 HP each attack, meaning while it can be strong, it has to be supported with healing troops or spells, or it'll only get 8 hits at best. The cheapest high damage unit in the game, but with somewhat balanced stats. At number 46 is the Heal Golem. The Heal Golem is the only gas golem, a giant figure in light yellow gas. It still attacks doing 40 damage per second with 3000 HP. Every time it's fully destroyed, it spawns a smaller version of itself with 10% less damage and health instead of 2 weak versions. Along with the 6-tile range heal spell, the Heal Golem can break apart into a smaller version 10 times. Technically, 9 times it breaks apart, but the main form kind of counts. At number 47 is the Time Giant, 1 housing space. The Time Giant looks similar to the Electro Giant, but light green skin color and a brown vest. While it may seem like a cheaper, generally stronger giant, every hit removes 2 seconds from your timer. It has a slower movement speed of 10 tiles per second, with a damage per second of 900 and the HP of 1.2 thousand, and upon death removes 10 seconds from your timer. Definitely a strong troop for being free, but you probably won't get any 3 stars with this troop. At number 48 is the Bow Knight, 2 housing space. The Bow Knight is a combination of a ranged troop and a melee troop. It moves at 18 tiles per second, has a DPS of 162, with the HP of 320. If its target is below 4 tiles, then it will run to it and attack with the sword. If it's above 4 tiles, it will shoot at it. It will run if it's above a 7 tile range, however, a deadlier but lower range combination of a barbarian and an archer. At number 49 is the Spirit Empress, 2 or 18 housing space. Spirit Empress isn't a troop I would consider bringing to Clash of Clans, but its ability could be very interesting. When you are adding the Spirit Empress to your army, there's a toggle next to the icon to change it from ground to air and vice versa. The ground Spirit Empress has a DPS of 268 with the HP of 170, a high damage but lower HP barbarian variant. The Air Spirit Empress has a DPS of 315 and the HP of 2.6 thousand, and flies instead of walks. Ground moves at 16 tiles per second, air moves at 18 tiles per second. You can bring both into an army strategy. At number 50 is the Mother Witch, for 3 housing space. The Mother Witch moves at 15 tiles per second, has a DPS of 75 and the HP of 203, and has a range of 4 tiles. Every building defeated will turn into a hog, which is the same as the Royal Hog, but with only 57 damage per second and 178 HP. Similar to the Dark Skeleton being used to create chaos, but a ranged counterpart more for damage than distraction. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you ever wondered if there was new heroes specifically in COC, click this link, which may be in the description. This is pretty much my first time doing this. I'm glad that I finally finished this series, but I might make sequels. It just depends on, like, if I have a bunch of cool ideas or not. Anyway, see ya, and Cody out. I don't know.